Hi everybody. Okay, so this video is going to be talking about how I was finally diagnosed with PCOS. Um, so we're going to get a little personal here, but hopefully we're all mature and we can talk about this. So when I was 13, that was the first time I ever got a period. Um, you're raised thinking that you should start about the same time that your mother did. My mom started when she was 11, and me and my female cousins are all about the same age, and everybody else was starting theirs except for me. Some people told me it's because I was a little bit more active. Um, I was involved in a lot of extracurricular activities. I did ballet, I did tennis lessons. I used to like to go for walks a lot. Started getting involved in jogging. Um, but yeah, so 13 years old, started my period for the first time. Um, it was horrific. It was never like what I thought it was going to be like, and of course your mom has to call everybody and let them know that you started, which is completely embarrassing. Um, I was never regular, and it had been mentioned to my doctors back then, but they said, it takes time for your body to become regular. It could be a couple of years, so we never really thought much about it. So I'm going to fast forward to, what was I think I was about 16. um, I started getting horrible, horrible, horrible cramps. There were many times where I ended up curling up into a ball because I was in so much pain. And my mother is a nurse, but she was working with elderly patients back then, so she didn't have to deal with a whole lot of this. And I remember a couple of times with her helping me into bed and then, feeling my stomach to see if it was my appendix. Um, Definitely wasn't my appendix. Let's see what else ended up happening. At that age, I struggled a little bit with weight. I was never obese. I saw myself as being this huge person. I was 140 pounds. I was 5'9", wore size 8'9". Um, and then I started really getting involved with jogging and going for really long walks. That's all I ever did was walk. Um, and I went down to a size 5. I think I was 120, 125 pounds. Um, and then that brought up a lot of concerns with my family and friends. They all thought I was too skinny, so I ended up going back up to the size 9. Wasn't really dieting, wasn't trying to lose the weight. It was just I became more active, and obviously I was not intaking enough calories for the activities I was doing. Um, so about at that same age, about 16, I was in 97, I think. The day after Thanksgiving, I had to go in for an ultrasound. They wanted to take a look at what was going on down there, what was causing this pain. Um, Awful. Never have a cousin who's a jokester go with you to the appointment. It was my first ultrasound. I knew I had to drink, the quart of water, and I decided to drink that water before I took a shower. It was probably an hour and a half before my appointment, because they said that they wanted you to drink all that an hour before your appointment, so I didn't know how long it was going to take me to drink that, so I gave myself an extra half hour. At that point, I thought my bladder was going to explode all over the place. I couldn't sit down. I thought if I was going to sit down, I was just going to spring a leak all over the place. It was horrible. Um, I laugh about it now, but my cousin was making sounds of running water or putting on the faucet, or when we finally got to the doctor's office, I was standing up, leaning up against the pillar inside the office because I definitely couldn't sit down. It hurt so bad. And of course, they're laughing, and when they were laughing, I wanted to laugh, but again, I was going to spring a leak all over the place. So happy once we were done with that ultrasound. It was awful. I've never been so happy to pee in my entire life. I've never been through that again, but it was awful. And I think it was the following week I had an appointment with the OBGYN, and they pulled out the ultrasound, said everything looked fine. I had what I know now as being called the ring of pearls around both of my ovaries, but I was told that was normal. Producing eggs, your body creates cysts, it pops, and out comes the egg. So what they did then is they put me on the birth control pill, to help regulate my period because it wasn't regular. I could go months without it. So they did that. Sorry, I'm just looking at some notes. I wanted to write everything down. So when I turned 18, I moved out of my parents' house. Um, I met my now husband and we lived together. And it was a rough time in my life. I had dropped out of high school, which I do not recommend anybody to do, but I thought I knew everything. I didn't have a driver's license yet. Um, I ended up working at Dunkin' Donuts 40 hours a week. I'd walk there and walk back home to our apartment. And I took it as being depressed um, for the reason that I was gaining so much weight. And, I didn't really think about a whole lot. Ended up with depression. I had some anxiety. And then, add the weight, and I was starting to get really bad acne through my cheeks. I had it on my chin, and I used to get it really bad right here along my forehead, too. And then I would have huge pores right here. And I felt like I always looked so dirty. I still have it a little bit. I can't really see it in here, but I had some dark lines going on right here and on the back of my neck. And in my armpits. So I felt like, am I dirty? What's going on? I'm gaining weight. I have this horrible acne all of a sudden. Still having the horrible, horrible stomach pains. And it was getting very frustrating. We ended up, I ended up starting to go on Depo-Provera when I did have the periods, I just didn't want them anymore. Not something I would suggest, even if you don't have PCOS, I would not suggest ending what is supposed to be natural. You need to have a period. But I didn't know that back then. So I went on the Depo-Provera just to end it all. And I gained about 100 pounds in 3 months. I cannot tell you how frustrating that was. There's no words to express. I remember not eating. I just wouldn't eat. Or long time with just having salads, and I could not lose the weight. It was really frustrating. So nobody had an answer for me. My mom thought I was diabetic. The doctor's office I was going to at that time, I was coming to them with all these complaints, and they're like, "You're flat out." One of the nurses there called me a hypochondriac. I didn't know what I was talking about. Of course, I wouldn't know my own body than what the doctor would know. I knew that there was something wrong. My mother knew that there was something wrong, and we just couldn't figure it out. I had so many pap smears, and she tested me so much for like chlamydia, and let's be honest here, I've only been with one person my entire life, and that is my husband now. And he doesn't cheat on me. He never has. So it was really frustrating to go in there all the time and have her tell me that she thinks that my husband's cheating on me, he's giving me diseases, and then she would test me, and obviously I had nothing. So that was really aggravating to go through. At that point, I had lost my insurance. So, another kick in the butt for me making a stupid mistake of dropping out of high school and all that crazy stuff. So eventually I ended up having to go to Planned Parenthood to get my Depo-Provera shots. And I was about 21 at this point, and I walked in to get my Depo-Provera shot. And this nurse practitioner just started looking at everything. And for once, it was somebody who was really listening to me, knew all these symptoms I was having and put them all together. And she goes, "Have you ever heard of polycystic ovarian syndrome?" I said, "No." And she goes, "Well, I am 99% sure that you have this, and we can't do the blood work here, but here's an informational sheet on it." And I remember crying because it was definitely what I had, and it was just amazing that this person finally gave me a name to all the struggle that I've been through. And I'm going to continue this story on another video because this is about 10 minutes, and I hope that you guys follow along to hear the rest of my story and the other struggles I did have. I was told I only had about 5 years to live because of a complication, but I am on 8 years, so haha, doctor, I win. And I'm doing much better with that, so I want to explain that to you too as well. So please look for the second video. Bye. I can figure out how to end this. All right.